My name is Bryanna. I'm a rising senior at Loyola School. My main project is the gesture-controlled robot, and my first milestone was getting the XPs to communicate wirelessly with each other and send and receive the flex sensor values. So if you press the A2 flex sensor, you're going to get a reading of A, and then the A0 flex sensor will give a reading of C. If the A0 and A1 flex sensors are pressed together, you get a reading of B, and if all three flex sensors are bent, you're going to get a reading of D. So the XPs are able to communicate wirelessly to each other. They are attached to the Arduino shield, which is then connected to the Arduino, which has a microcontroller. The Arduino is able to read the flex sensor values by reading the input from the analog pins. The XPs are able to communicate wirelessly using radio waves. They have to be configured to the same PAN ID so that they're able to communicate in the same network. A PAN ID is a personal area network identifier, so that when they communicate wirelessly with each other, they are able to send and receive data. This is important because for the gesture-controlled robot, I will be controlling the robot car with a hand, which has the flex sensors attached to it, so it needs to be able to communicate wirelessly. The flex sensors are each hooked up to a specific analog pin, A0, A1, and A2. On one side of the flex sensors is an ink, which has conductive particles. They're a variable resistor, so it has a certain value of resistance when they're unbent. When they're bent, the conductive particles move further apart, which increases the resistance and changes the value. Since the XPs are able to send and receive characters, they can't send the full numerical value when the flex sensors are bent. So each gesture, instead of sending the numerical value, sends a character that corresponds to each gesture, either A, B, C, or D, to tell whether it should move left, right, back, or forwards. So like if one flex sensor is bent, the Arduino reads this and is able to send it to the other XP. Some of the challenges I faced were configuring the XPs themselves. They have to be set to the same PAN ID so that they're able to communicate wirelessly in the same network. And they also have different MAC addresses. So one XP has to be set to send data to the other's MAC address and vice versa. Another issue I had was sending the flex sensor values themselves. The XPs don't send the full numerical value, they can only send characters. So to account for that, instead of sending the full value, we had to send the characters A, B, C, or D to correspond to each gesture. My next steps are to set up the glove itself by attaching these to the glove, and also setting up the DC motors for the robot car itself.